Okay, so you've seen the headlines, right? Gold is on an absolute tear, hitting these crazy record prices. It's like a modern-day gold rush. But this isn't just about markets. This is really about a story that's thousands of years old. A story about belief. So let's get into it.
I mean, think about it. What is it about this one shiny metal? Out of all the elements in the Earth's crust, why did civilizations all over the world, we're talking the Incas, ancient China, you name it, why did they all independently fall under gold's spell? Well, the answer doesn't start with economics. It actually starts with physics.
Just try to imagine what our ancestors saw. Gold has these just incredible properties. Its electrons actually move at nearly the speed of light, which makes it absorb blue light and reflect that brilliant yellow, so it literally shines like the sun. It's soft enough you can shape it, but it's so chemically stable it doesn't rust or tarnish, ever. It was incorruptible, maybe even eternal. And it was rare, but not so rare that you could never find it. All these qualities made it the perfect raw material for one of our most important inventions, money.
And this is a perfect way to understand the huge mental journey we all took. You know, we started with money that had an actual, real-world use, like cattle you could eat or salt you could use to preserve food. But that was clunky. Gold required this massive psychological leap. It had almost no practical use, but we believed it was valuable. And that shared belief was powerful enough to build entire empires. From there, we took another step. We started trusting that a piece of paper represented actual gold in a vault. And finally, we made the biggest leap of all. Pure faith in government-issued currency, backed by, well, nothing but a promise.
And that really gets to the core of the difference between the old world and today. Under the gold standard, a dollar was basically a claim on a real, finite chunk of gold. Governments couldn't just fire up the printing presses. But today, we have fiat money. Its value comes entirely from our trust, our faith, in the government that issues it. Now, this gives central banks these powerful tools, these levers, to manage the economy. But it all rests on that one single foundation: trust.
And that brings us right to 2025, because what we're seeing play out right now is what happens when that foundation of trust starts to show some serious cracks. The whole surge in gold we're seeing, it's being called a crisis of belief. The key concept you need to know here is something called the debasement trade. It sounds complicated, but it's simple. It's the idea that when people start to lose confidence in traditional currencies, maybe because of massive government debt or political chaos, they start running to assets that can't be printed or controlled by any central authority, an asset just like gold.
And wow, are people running to it. The price just recently surged to a stunning new all-time high of nearly $4,400 an ounce. To put that into perspective, that just shatters previous records. This is not some minor market move. This is a massive signal that something really fundamental is shifting. And it's not just your everyday investors driving this train.
Nope. Maybe the biggest signal of all is coming from the world's central banks. Get this. In the early 2000s, they were mostly selling off their gold. Now, they have done a complete 180. They flipped the script and become the biggest buyers on the planet, snapping up over 1,000 tons a year. They're making the exact same trade, just on a global scale.
So what in the world is causing all of this anxiety? Well, it really seems to boil down to three key drivers that are fueling this massive rush back into gold.
It's really a perfect storm of uncertainty. You've got geopolitical conflicts reshaping the globe, you've got domestic politics making people question the stability of our institutions, and you've got this growing economic anxiety over debt and inflation. Okay, let's break each of those down.
Geopolitically, a huge moment was back in 2022 when Russia's central bank assets were frozen. That was a wake-up call for the world. It showed that the US dollar could absolutely be weaponized. So for countries like China or India or Turkey, holding all their reserves in dollars suddenly seemed incredibly risky. Gold, on the other hand, has no counterparty risk. Its value doesn't depend on another country's promise. It's a physical asset they can hold in their own vaults completely outside the influence of Western sanctions.
Then there's the political uncertainty right at home. The U.S. Federal Reserve has for a long time been seen as this pillar of global financial stability, mainly because it's supposed to be independent from politics. But recent pressure on the Fed to influence interest rates has led a lot of investors to question that very independence. And if the institution that manages the world's reserve currency is seen as political, well, that starts to erode trust in the currency itself.
So, okay, with all of this uncertainty flying around, gold seems like the obvious, simple answer, right? The ultimate safe place to park your money. But here's where the story gets a little more complicated. Is gold really the guaranteed safe haven that everyone seems to think it is?
Well, if you look at the actual data, the picture gets a lot murkier. Gold is volatile. Price spikes, just like the one we're seeing now, have been followed by major crashes in the past. In fact, there was a 20-year period starting in the 1980s where the value of gold actually fell. So scarcity alone doesn't guarantee value. It all still relies on demand.
And now, in this age-old story of belief, there's a new player on the field. Digital assets, like Bitcoin, are showing up as a kind of 21st century alternative. I mean, think about it. They share some of the same key features as gold. They're scarce, they exist outside of government control, and they represent yet another psychological leap in how we define money.
So here's the bottom line. The story of gold has always been a story about what we collectively choose to believe in. And today, that belief is being tested on a global scale. The rise of gold isn't just a financial story. It's a reflection of our anxieties, and it's a search for something certain in a very uncertain world. And that leaves all of us with the ultimate question for the future. What or who are we going to choose to trust with our value?